War Pugs. So, I haven't touched on anything in Game of Thrones, but besides saying that Herman von Straub is unequivocally, he's the cause for season 8 of Game of Thrones. I think everybody can agree season 8 of Game of Thrones is the biggest disappointment since. Oh, I can't even make an analogy of how bad that was. It seemed like it was happening at the time where more and more things were coming out that were just utter disappointments in both cinema and on screen. Um, I think after I finished watching this, the next time I sat down for a series was the Resident Evil series on Netflix, which made me want to slam my head in a car door because I shouldn't be rooting for your main character's death like within a single episode. It shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be just sitting there going, why aren't these people dead yet? Because my God, can you please stop being stupid? But if there was one good thing that did come out of the final few seasons of Game of Thrones, it was the ultimate Chad, Euron Greyjoy, who was unbelievably insane and probably one of the best villain characters, period, because it was absolutely clear this guy was a pirate. It was absolutely clear he was out of his mind. The sheer unbridled, ridiculous, toxic masculinity that just exuded from him when he came down on that one plank to land on the I forget the scorpions, I believe it was the three sisters. When he landed on their ship, it was so classic. I laughed until I cried because it was just, as soon as he showed up, you knew that things were about to get real. And every time you saw him on screen, you knew he was going to do something that was absolutely awful, just completely the worst. But for some strange reason, you just absolutely loved him. Oh, when he started talking about Cersei in front of Jaime, me and my wife just looked at each other like, he did not just do this for everybody. It's like, this dude is the definition. He can't be messed with. There's too much. He's just too much. And this is why villains always make great characters if they're given the room and if the writers actually respect their villains. And what I've seen out of a lot of cinema and shows recently is the fact that they just don't respect their villains anymore. I mean, some of the villains in the recent movies and shows that have come out have been so one-dimensional, such pushovers, so obviously bad people, just ridiculous. And for me, it just gets on my nerves to see that over and over in cinema. Euron was the first one that was just outright about it. I am the bad guy, and I don't care. Let's get into this. This is Euron Greyjoy's Apocalypse in the Game of Thrones book. And as soon as I saw this pop up in my feed, as soon as I saw this in the other request tab in the Discord, I was like, okay, this is most definitely something that I'm going to want to see. And this is requested by Miro7197 and made by Alt Shift X. And quite seriously, if the quote that he put down when requesting this, he or she, I don't know, said, as you're reading the books, you get that Euron Greyjoy is screwed up. But when you get it all laid out in front of you, one after another, you come to the realization he's the Cthulhu Antichrist and the final boss of the series. Which, he was one of the two, as far as I knew. Let's jump into this. Euron Greyjoy, the most ridiculous Chad character I've ever seen.
In the Game of Thrones TV show, Euron Greyjoy is a violent, shit-talking pirate who wants to fuck the queen and rule the world. But in the book series, Euron's a totally different character. He's a scary, manipulative murderer, a charismatic politician, and a psychedelic sorcerer hungry for apocalyptic power.
Yay.
He's got a magic dragon horn and warlock slaves and Valyrian steel armor. He's connected to the mysterious magic of Bloodraven, the Faceless Men, and Valyria. Euron doesn't just want a throne, he wants cosmic, eldritch power, and plans a blasphemous blood sacrifice to make himself a Lovecraftian god.
Mm.
The fan community, especially Paul Quentin, theorized that Euron will bring apocalypse to Westeros. At the start of the story, Balon Greyjoy rules the Iron Islands. He rebels.
This guy, I got about midway through the books, and this guy was a total tool, irregardless. Him and his whole family's messed up, to be honest with you.
Against the Iron Throne and declares the islands his own separate kingdom. His daughter Asha and his son Theon attack the north. Balon also has 3 brothers. Victarion is a warrior. He's strong and loyal and kinda stupid. Aeron is a priest of the drowned god. He used to be a party boy until he was born again as a religious man.
Yay.
And then there's Euron Greyjoy. Euron was exiled from the islands years ago and has since been sailing far distant seas in his infamous pirate ship, the Silence. Its crew are mutes with their tongues ripped out. Its
Yay.
sails are black and its decks are painted red to hide the blood that soaks them. The Silence is feared all across the east, from Ib to Ashai. But Euron doesn't appear in the story right away. He's introduced slowly, like the monster in a horror movie, with just rumors and memories to build tension and mystery. Men say terrible things of Euron Greyjoy. Victarion and Aeron hate and fear Euron. Aeron thinks the storm is coming, and its name is Euron Greyjoy. In Book 3, King Balon suddenly dies. He falls to his death from a bridge on Pike. And the very next day, Euron returns after years away and claims Balon's throne.
Welcome
It's
back.
very suspicious, so Asha thinks that Euron murdered Balon. In the TV show, Euron does straight up murder Balon, but in the books, it's more complicated. Arya meets a witch called the Ghost of Highheart, who makes a bunch of accurate predictions and prophecies. And the witch sees a man without a face on a bridge that sways and swings. On his shoulder perches a drowned crow with seaweed hanging from his wings. Presumably, the man without a face is an assassin of the Faceless Men, and the drowned crow is Euron Greyjoy, meaning that Euron hired a faceless man to kill Balon.
Wouldn't surprise
Hiring
me.
a faceless assassin is expensive, especially if the target is someone important, like King Balon. But it's implied that you can pay the Faceless Men with something other than money, if you sacrifice something that's important to you. Euron claims that he once had a dragon egg. He tried to make it hatch, but got frustrated and threw the egg in the sea. Dragon eggs are super valuable and rare, so would Euron really throw one away? Some fans
Doubt
believe
it.
that Euron actually gave the egg to the Faceless Men as payment, so that they...
Euron was many things, but an idiot was not one of them. He was too smart for his own good, and he knew that he was the smartest man in the room. Even when he wasn't, he just projected that aura, and even when he was just completely outclassed by somebody, he'd fake it until he made it, and he'd be happy to do it.
They would throw Balon in the sea. One way or another, Euron secretly hired a magical assassin to murder his own brother.
There you
But
go.
publicly, he hides his evil behind a charismatic persona. The real Euron is hidden, which is symbolized by Euron's eye patch. His right eye is described as his smiling eye, the charming, swaggering, magnanimous side. But the eye behind his eye patch is his blood eye, where he hides his full cruelty and sorcery and ambition. By the time the Ironborn see Euron's true face, it's too late. After King Balon dies, the Ironborn hold a Kingsmoot to choose a new king, and Euron uses a combination of politics, murder, and swag to win the Driftwood crown. He rolls up in his infamous ship, the Silence, with an entourage of mutes, monsters, and wizards from the east. He hands out treasure from his years of piracy, bribing some rivals and murdering others. He makes grandiose speeches about how badass he is, how he's raided, raped, and looted all over the world, which is the kind of thing the Ironborn respect. In his election speech, Euron says he'll make the Iron Islands great again, evoking their glorious past as conquerors. He shows off his magic horn, Dragonbinder, and says it has the power to bind dragons to his will. Euron plans to sail across the world to Meereen and to steal Daenerys Targaryen's dragons and to use them to take over Westeros. It's a totally crazy plan, so naturally the Ironborn love it and
Yeah.
make Euron their king.
It's a pirate kingdom. What do you expect? They're literally all pirates.
Euron leads the Ironborn to conquer some nearby islands, cementing his power by giving them some glory. But privately, Euron doesn't care about these islands or about the Ironborn. He cares only about himself, and everyone else is just a means to an end. Euron wants the world. He wants dragons and woe. And he wants to marry Daenerys. When the Kraken weds the dragon, let all the world beware. So Euron sends his brother Victarion with Dragonbinder to fetch Daenerys. Victarion hates Euron because years ago Euron had sex with Victarion's wife.
There you go.
Because of Victarion's fucked up male pride, Victarion beat his wife to death. This is why Euron was exiled. So Victarion agrees to sail east, but he secretly plans to take Daenerys for himself as revenge for Euron taking his wife.
I don't think that's going to go over too well for him.
But Euron knows all about Victarion's resentment and hatred, and he exploits these feelings to manipulate Victarion. Victarion's like a puppet, blind to the tentacles that grasp him, so he'll probably fail to outsmart Euron. We're told that Dragonbinder brings dragons not to the person who blows the horn, but to the horn's true master. And Euron is the master here. So, one way or another, it looks likely the Victarion will die so that Euron can get at Daenerys. Euron might steal the dragon Viserion, like the Night King does in the TV show. So, this is how Euron operates. He exploits people's hopes and fears to make them his slaves in his quest for power and woe. Euron uses and abuses his family and his people, and now he wants the world.
Okay, so I'm seeing some definite differences between the way the show portrayed him and the books, just like he was talking about. There seems to be a slight disconnect. The Euron that we learned in the show was far more out front about his ambitions, what he wanted to do. He was not quiet about it at all. This one is far more... he's even more charismatic than the one that was in the show. So, once again, it's another thing where the books are always going to be better than the show. It's a rule that is very rarely proven wrong, if ever proven wrong.
But how did Euron Greyjoy, an Ironborn Reaver, become obsessed with dragons and world domination? How did Euron become the Crow's Eye? Euron says that when he was a boy, he dreamed that he could fly. When he woke, his maester said he couldn't fly. But what if he lied? Maybe we all can fly. How will we know unless we leap from some tall tower? This story is almost identical to how Bran Stark discovers magic. When Bran is a boy, he falls from a tall tower. Then he dreams that he can fly. The three-eyed crow visits his dream and opens Bran's third eye to his magic. When Bran wakes up, he can't fly. His maester says he can't learn magic, but the maester is wrong, and Bran learns magic from the three-eyed crow, aka Bloodraven, who is way creepier in the books. So these flying dream stories are too similar to be a coincidence. Bloodraven is called the Three-Eyed Crow, and Euron is called the Crow's Eye. Bloodraven has one red eye, and Euron's sigil is one red eye with crows. So the theory goes that Euron, like Bran, was visited in his dreams by the Three-Eyed Crow. In Bran's dream, he sees the bones of 1,000 other dreamers. So it looks like Bloodraven has tried out a bunch of potential students, but most failed or died. Maybe Euron was one of those students. Maybe when Bloodraven visited Euron's dreams, he saw how crazy and cruel Euron is and decided not to teach him magic. But damage was done. Euron went rogue with his third eye opened. Bloodraven and Bran are greenseers with the power to skin change, to enter the mind of another creature. We don't know if Euron has that power, but it would make sense if he did. because Euron gives Victarion a mute, dusky woman to go east with him, and fans speculate that she's spying for Euron. Like, maybe Euron is skin-changing into her from afar to see what Victarion's up to.
That'd be some weirdness. Well, not for Game of Thrones, to be honest with you. It wouldn't be that weird for Game of Thrones.
Skin-changing a human is seen as an evil, abominable act, so it's exactly the sort of thing that Euron might do. Skin-changing might also explain how Euron controls his mute crew on the Silence. Like, how else could you coordinate the crew of a ship who can't talk? And skin-changing isn't just a Stark thing. We're told that some Ironborn skin-change into sea creatures. So Euron might just be a skin-changer. Bran and Bloodraven can also magically enter people's dreams, and after Euron says he'll marry Daenerys, Daenerys has a creepy sex dream of a man with blue bruised lips. Euron has blue bruised lips because of a drug he takes, so that's probably him in her dream. Euron also enters Aeron's dream later on. So it's just speculation, but Euron might secretly have the magic powers of a Greenseer. Either way, a visit from the Three-Eyed Crow could explain Euron's motivations. In Bran's flying dream, he sees the whole world spread out below him. He sees Winterfell and Asshai, sees dragons and the heart of winter. Maybe Euron saw the same things, and when he saw dragons and magic and the whole world spread out below him, he wanted it all. Euron tasted godlike magic power, and ever since, he'll stop at nothing to get more. Euron travels to some of the most magic and mysterious places in the world. He says he sailed to Asshai by the Shadow, right at the edge of the map, and saw wonders and terrors beyond imagining. Lots of the most powerful sorcerers in the story learned magic in Asshai. Melisandre, Quaithe, Marwyn, Mirri Maz Duur all went there. Asshai is like...
One thing that really annoyed me about the show was that Quaithe never really reappeared. Melisandre, of course, reappeared about for the entirety of storylines, everything like that. Her story was actually really, really good. But Quaithe never showed back up after that one time. And that really kind of annoyed me. They had a lot of things that they were doing, but they kind of abandoned them mid-process. I do understand why, though, because they could only go on for so long, but good God, I wish they had done another, 3 seasons to iron all that stuff out.
Like Hogwarts for edgelords, full of shadowbinders and blood mages casting dark spells in the night. And right by Asshai is Stygai, the mysterious heart of darkness where even shadowbinders fear to tread.
Oh.
Maybe Euron dared to enter the Corpse City and found some evil power there. Euron also says he sailed to Valyria, the smoking, demon-haunted ruins of the ancient Dragon Lords. People say it's impossible to visit Valyria and survive, but Euron does have that Valyrian steel armor and that Valyrian horn. The old Valyrian Empire used dragons and slavery to conquer the world, which might have inspired Euron to do the same thing. So it seems that after Euron dreamed that he could fly, he traveled the world in search of magic power and developed his ambitions for world domination. At some point, Euron captured some warlocks from Qarth. The warlocks had just been defeated by Daenerys, and they were out to get revenge. But Euron captured them and took their Shade of the Evening. Shade of the Evening is a psychedelic drug that gives visions of pasts and futures. Euron got really into the Shade, to the point where it stains his lips blue and bruised. Euron says that the Shade opens his eyes, that there's more truth in it than in all the gods of Earth. Euron believes that gods and morality are lies, and he commits horrific crimes just to prove that no god can stop him. It's revealed that Euron murdered 3 of his own brothers. As well as Balon, he killed Harlon and Robin Greyjoy when they were young.
Okay.
The Ironborn see kinslaying as the most evil crime. So after Euron choked the life from Harlon, he pissed into the sea, waiting for a god to strike him down, and none did. Gods are lies, he says, and men are meat.
Yeah, a lot more crazy in this interpretation. I didn't think it was possible. This is like thinking that you really like the Joker and then finding out that you've been really, rooting for Adam West's version, the Batman 1960s version of the Joker at that point. I can't remember the actor's name that played the Joker in the 1960s Batman, but yeah, apparently I am really rapidly getting to that point. Yeah.
By breaking the laws of gods and men, Euron feels like a god himself. So Euron constantly mocks and perverts everything that people hold sacred. He kinslays, blasphemes, breaks every taboo just because he can. It turns out that the reason why Aeron is so afraid of Euron is that when they were young, Euron sexually abused him.
Oh
Euron
my
says
god.
he taught Aeron how to pray, because Aeron would pray in terror when Euron came to visit in the night. Euron learned that sadistic cruelty gets him worship. When he terrorizes the East in the silence, murdering and raping, men pray. And so, Euron says, he is the godliest man ever to raise sail. If all gods are lies, Euron decides to become his own god, and to become a god, he needs blood. The Forsaken is a chapter from the upcoming Winds of Winter, read at a convention by George Martin, and it's one of the darkest, most terrifying chapters in the series.
My god.
Euron imprisons Aeron and tortures him physically and psychologically. He forces him to drink Shade of the Evening, and Aeron has nightmarish visions of dead brothers and dead gods. Euron appears and says, "These are the last days, when the world shall be broken and remade. A new god shall be born from the graves and charnel pits." Euron's hidden blood eye is finally revealed in all of its horror and ambition. "I am your king," he says. "I am your god." After the vision, we see Euron imprisoning priests of all different religions. As well as Aeron, he has priests of the Seven with their tongues ripped out. He has a red priest with a burned-off face. He rips the legs off a warlock. And he has this girl called Thalia. Euron seduces Thalia and impregnates her and says she'll be his wife, and she's happy and excited, but then Euron rips out her tongue. Euron ties Thalia and Aeron and the priests to the front of his ships as Euron and the Ironborn sail into battle against an enemy fleet. Blood is power. In this world, there's magic in death and sacrifice.
Never mind. Anything I said good about this person is just done. Like, even for Game of Thrones, this is extreme. Even for Game of Thrones, this is extreme. Oh, wow. It's hard to rationalize cheering for Jaime Lannister at the end of, like, a few seasons. It's hard to rationalize him considering what he did. But this guy's messed up on a whole different... He ain't even in the same country. He ain't even on the same continent. This is insane.
So Euron plans a blasphemous massacre of unimaginable scale.
Lovely.
This battle will kill his imprisoned priests and his brother, and kill Thalia and their unborn child. It'll kill the enemy fleet, and probably his own fleet, in a catastrophic orgy of death. Aeron dreams of Ironborn ships burning on a boiling blood-red sea. This carnage might summon krakens from the deep. In Aeron's vision, krakens come at Euron's command, and we're told that krakens can be drawn to the water's surface by blood. These visions show a blood-red sea. But Euron wants this massacre to make him a god. He knows that death and fear give him power and prayers. He knows there's magic in the holy blood of priests, and in the king's blood of his unborn child. This battle is a giant blood magic ritual. Euron will gorge on the deaths of thousands to transform into a terrible godlike being. Moquoro sees a tall and twisted thing with one black eye and 10 long arms, sailing on a sea of blood. Aeron sees Euron as no longer human, more squid than man, his face a mass of writhing tentacles. So basically Cthulhu.
Okay. Miro, I kind of question what you were saying. But, my God, were you not spot on by saying this? You were absolutely spot on. This is nightmarish.
Maybe the drowned god that the Ironborn worship is actually an eldritch monster, and Euron's blood sacrifice will wake it from ageless slumber. Or maybe Euron really did throw that dragon egg into the sea, and all this magic blood will make it hatch into a monstrous sea dragon. There is all sorts of crazy, scary imagery here, and it's not clear exactly what will happen, but there will be blood and death and horror, which Euron thinks will give him the godlike power to break and remake the world. And it's hinted that he'll use this power against the city of Old Town.
What did Old Town do to you?
Euron's close to Old Town now, and his Ironborn have been raiding towards the city. Melisandre has a vision of towers by the sea submerged beneath a black and bloody tide rising from the depths. It makes sense that Euron would want Old Town because it's full of secret magic.
True.
Old Town's high tower is built on an ancient foundation of strange black stone, which some say was built by a Lovecraftian fish people called the Deep Ones, which connects to the Cthulhu stuff. Old Town has the Citadel, the University of the Maesters, which holds magic Valyrian artifacts called glass candles. A faceless man just infiltrated the Citadel, possibly searching for a secret blood-soaked tome called the Death of Dragons. The city is ruled by Leighton Hightower and his mad maid, who for the last 10 years have stayed in the Hightower consulting books of spells, possibly to raise an army from the deep. Old Town is a powder keg of dormant magic powers just waiting to explode into an eldritch clusterfuck, and Euron's coming for it with a lit match, sailing on a sea of blood.
Hooray!
And the most dangerous power in Old Town, the one that could spark apocalypse, might be in the hands of Sam Tarly. In the books, there are legends of the Horn of Winter, an ancient artifact with the power to destroy the Wall. Mance Rayder claims to have the horn, but that turns out to be fake. So, where is the true horn? In Book 2, Jon finds an old horn. He gives it to Sam, who takes it to Old Town. Sam and Jon don't think this horn's important, but the books keep subtly reminding us that Sam has it. So fans suspect that Sam's horn at Old Town is the Horn of Winter, with the power to bring down the wall and let the White Walkers in. Euron might want the White Walker apocalypse. He says he wants to break the world, and the Forsaken chapter's full of apocalyptic imagery. Euron may have learned about the White Walkers in his flying dream, just like when Bran sees the Heart of Winter at the end of the world. It's said that the White Walkers will bring a long night that never ends, and Euron's often described in terms of night and darkness. His hair is as black as a midnight sea. His sails are as black as a starless sky. He says, "We shall feast before the fall of night." At the King's Moot, Euron's dragon horn sounds 3 times. At the Night's Watch, 3 horn blasts means White Walkers are coming.
Oh,
Euron may be the harbinger of apocalypse. According to Eastern legend, the first long night was caused by the Bloodstone Emperor, and this ancient emperor is very similar to Euron. The Emperor murdered his older sibling to take her throne, just like Euron murders Balon for his throne. The Emperor practiced dark arts, torture, slavery, and cannibalism, just like Euron practices dark arts, torture, slavery, and cannibalism. The Emperor cast down the true gods, like Euron mocks and attacks the gods. And the Emperor worshipped a creepy black stone. Just like the Ironborn throne and the Hightower Foundation and the city of Ashai are all made of creepy black stone.
Yay.
The Bloodstone Emperor married a tiger woman, which might be kind of like Euron wanting to marry the dragon woman Daenerys. The sister who the Emperor usurped was called the Amethyst Empress, and as Euron points out, Daenerys' eyes are amethysts. Euron's hidden eye is called his Blood Eye, which fits with the Bloodstone Emperor. So there are lots of strong connections between Euron and the Bloodstone Emperor, the guy who caused the first long night when the White...
This is a lot. This is a lot. This is actually insane. I love how he's laid all this out. This is insane. You. This is why I have seen things from this channel before, but it's been a while. And I am so glad that this got requested because this kind of deep dive into a singular character is just absolutely wonderful.
White Walkers came for the first time, it's all happening again. When Roderick the Reader talks about Euron, he warns that history is a wheel, and what has happened before will happen again. Euron is the Bloodstone Emperor born again, a figure so addicted to power and blasphemy that he'll bring darkness to the world. Fan theorist Paul Quentin writes that Euron will climb the High Tower in Old Town, another tall tower, and will sound the horn of winter, breaking the wall, bringing the night, and sparking the apocalypse. And after the storm, there'll be silence. The Game of Thrones book series is called A Song of Ice and Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of Martin's stories are named after songs, because songs to him represent life and love and memory. Euron represents the opposite of a song. He is silence. His ship is named Silence. He makes people mutes. He silences his brothers with shame, trauma, and murder. He brings literal silence. The first time he enters the story, a sudden silence falls, and when he leaves, silence lingers. Euron's apocalyptic ambitions threaten to silence the Song of Ice and Fire itself. And sure, the White Walkers are probably the true danger, but it's Euron who'll unleash them. Which means the White Walkers aren't just a magical fantasy threat, it's more like climate change, a threat that humans bring onto themselves. Book 2 and Book 3 in the series are called A Clash of Kings and A Storm of Swords, because they're...
Now, here's the thing. I don't have a lot of time to sit down and actually read, so I do a lot of things via audiobooks. I cannot stand the way that the audiobooks were recorded. Because every single time somebody talked, every single time the narrator talked using, personifying any character that wasn't a noble, it sounded like the character that they were, narrating had an IQ of around 25 and had been recently hit in the head with a sledgehammer. It got annoying very fast and I couldn't listen to him anymore.
They're about war. 5 kings fight to control Westeros, and thousands of people die for them. But all of these kings die or fail, so what did the war achieve? Book 4 explores the aftermath of war, and it's called A Feast for Crows. Because in the end, the only people who benefit from all the death and chaos are the outlaws and opportunists, the monsters and betrayers who exploit the war for their own gain, like crows feasting on the corpse of Westeros. The bloody mummers raid and rape, Lady Stoneheart murders for vengeance, Littlefinger and the Boltons take over kingdoms, and Euron Greyjoy arises. Westeros is dying, he says. Those who follow me shall feast until the end of their days. Euron Crow's
Which could be
is
soon.
the crow of the book's title, an embodiment of all the greed, cruelty, and pride that drives the conflict of the whole series. 'Cause like any politician, Euron isn't dangerous by himself. We never see him swing a sword or cast a spell. Euron's powerful because people are scared and ignorant and greedy enough to follow him. The people chose him at the Kingsmoot. The Dark Lord was democratically elected. His evil is our evil. His power comes from the fear, hope, and hate inside us. That's how he manipulates his family, his people, and the world. And that's how Westeros is reduced to corpses and crows. So Euron's story isn't just about dragons and krakens, though those bits will be fucking sick. It's also about how real human impulses lead us all into self-destruction and silence. So TLDR, that goofy pirate on the Dragon Show who talks about fingers in bums is actually the most scary, smart, magical, mysterious, evil motherfucker in Westeros. But we'll have to wait for the next book to see what happens next. If you want to truly appreciate the message and the mysteries of this story, you've got to check out the books. As well as the main series, there's the World Book and Fire and Blood and the Dunk and Egg stories. And you can get any one of these on audiobook for free right now by signing up for a trial with Audible.
I would have to really look at, because if I could find a different narrator, I might enjoy it a lot more. I will put this down in the description below, but yeah, the narrator for this really just ruined it for me really badly. I don't like it when narrators make characters that they just make every non-noble sound like they're a drooling idiot.
Members get an audiobook each month, and if you cancel, you keep the audiobooks. You can listen in the car or the gym, or while you sail from Ib to Ashai.
No.
Sign up at audible.com/ASX. Many thanks to the artists. Links are all below, and check out the linked essays and videos for more on Euron.
Oh my god, that is so neat.
This video topic was chosen by supporters on Patreon. Thanks to patrons Nolan Strout, Kenneth Weeks, Jess Simpson, John Paget, Michelle Canavarolo, Scarlett Farouk, and Timo. Cheers.
Nice. Well, Warpugs, we learned a bit today. No matter how messed up the thing that you just saw, there's always something more messed up. Usually I reserve that for 40K, but this actually took the whole Westeros right into the grimdark. Like, if it wasn't already there before, it was solidly there now with this kind of ridiculousness going on. So, in short, Euron Greyjoy is a psycho. Perfect. That is just perfect. And there I was, actually enjoying him, but no, he is actually deranged in more than one way. Warpugs, that was Alt-Shift X. I really do appreciate this one, because this one was really good. This was really interesting. I really enjoyed this one. So, if you guys would like to see more Alt-Shift X, just go into the Discord, let me know. I know that I'd like to see more stuff like this, because stuff like this, where you really get an understanding of the character that you wouldn't be able to get if you were just reading through the books, if you didn't have a chance to make notes. That's why I think lore channels are kind of essential at the end of the day. Kind of essential to help understanding. I run my own lore channel for 40K, and I'm telling you, some of the research that goes into this stuff is extensive. You're talking about codex upon codex upon codex. But something like this, I can't really do for 40K, because 40K does not have this level of a centralized storyline. It's spread out over a very long period of time. You can do this for individual events, but nowhere near this extensive. And I can just appreciate this, because something like this on a story as complex as Game of Thrones is fantastic. Warpugs, thank you for joining me for this one. Check the links in the description below for Alt-Shift X's links. Check the links in the description below for my links, including Patreon, all that other kind of stuff. Merch, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.